Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guide 365, and in today's video I am going to give you my September 2021 movie recommendations. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. You can also find me over Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Movie Guide 365. Okay, in this video, I thought I would give you my September 2021 movie recommendation list. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, you know that when I do 4K reviews, I mostly focus on the picture and audio aspects of the disc. I touch a little bit about the movie itself at the beginning of the video, but for the most part, it's all about the technicals, so I thought I would do a video at least once a month where I give you movies that I watched in my off time, that I'm not worrying about reviewing, that's just something that it brings me enjoyment and I want to pass on to you, whether you're aware of it or it's a familiar favorite. So we're going to dive right in and begin with my first one. Now, I am a big fan of the show. This one is What We Do in the Shadows. This is the movie edition of this one. And I love the series. You know, with the season 3 just recently starting, I thought I would go back and revisit this one. Taika Waititi, you know, behind the camera, in front of the camera is fantastic. And the show is hilarious. But the movie really establishes the whole world that these characters live in. Even though the show is more of a spin-off, there's still some familiar elements in there. But, I mean, Taika Waititi is just fantastic. And just the overall cast is great. I love the style. You know, if you're a fan of The Office, you know the kind of, you know, do that, you know, kind of format. But I think if you really enjoy the show and you've never seen the movie, really, you have to do yourself a favor, watch it. I think it holds up extremely well. And it's so funny. It's funny, and just, I laugh even just thinking about some parts of the movie and just going, you know, by extension, the show. So yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, I highly, highly recommend you watch that one. This next one I feel is a very underrated Martin Scorsese film. In fact, I wasn't even aware he directed it at first until I actually watched it a few years ago. Great cast, and it's a very intimate but epic storytelling also, and that is Silence, starring Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. Essentially the story is about two missionaries that travel to Japan looking for a third, and you know, they get kind of caught up in the politics and what's happening at the time in that country. And just the acting is fantastic. You know, this is Adam Driver when he's still kind of, you know, not, I would say, new at acting, but earlier in his career. I love the movie. It's great. It has a wonderful storytelling elements and beautiful cinematography. It's a great movie. It's just something that, you know, if you want a good story, you know, with some epic scale to it and awesome acting, I would just encourage you to check out Silence. This one is, you know, if you're a Western fan, we all have our favorite Westerns. And of course, Clint Eastwood being Clint Eastwood, you know, he's an icon in American, you know, cinema, you know, mostly, you know, known for his Westerns and his Dirty Harry films. But for me, this is definitely my top 3 favorite Westerns. And that is High Plains Drifter. There's so much, you know, Eastwood is so kind of like, he plays like a very edgier version of his cowboy, you know, that he normally does play. You know, if that's even possible to be edgier. But, and there's also, you know, there's elements of a possible supernatural aspect of the film. And this is great. This one is just, in my opinion, very, very good. I like to go back to this one quite a bit. I know Kino Lorber just recently did a reissue of this one, but I would love a 4K edition of High Plains Drifter. It's so, you know, it's funny because, you know, there's this town that is kind of like with a bunch of just bad people. Like, you know, even, it's not so much like, you know, some black hats running around, you know, causing issues with the local population. It's like everybody in town just sucks. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but oh, this one is great. I would just, if you're a fan of Westerns and you haven't seen this one, do yourself a favor, check out High Plains Drifter. You will not be disappointed. Staying on the Western theme for a moment, recently I started a podcast with a friend of mine called Make Remake, where we essentially talk about a film that was originally released and many years later, if they did a remake of it, and we do a comparison of those movies. And I will go ahead and leave a link to that in the comment section and description of the video if you want to check out the podcast. So we do that once a week, and I think we're going to cover some really cool titles. But going back to Westerns, this past week we talked about 3:10 to Yuma. This, of course, being the remake edition of the original film. And I honestly love, I mean, in that video we talked, I think we're more or less in favor of the remake edition, but Russell Crowe and Christian Bale are go head to head in this one. And for Westerns, I think this is a fantastic film. It's gritty, it's got some edginess to it, and I think it's well shot also. I love the movie. I think, as I said earlier, I'm a big fan of Westerns, and I think this one, for a modern, definitely scratches that itch. It's got great stories and characters, and I think, will really enjoy it, and I absolutely encourage you to check out 3:10 to Yuma. Speaking of remakes, we also talked about this one recently, and that is John Carpenter's The Thing. Of course, the original version being A Thing from Another World. This is the Steelbook edition of this one. What can I say about The Thing? I know this probably goes without saying as a recommendation, but yes, watch The Thing. And just having watched this recently for the channel, it's just so great. The makeup effects, the alien creature designs are, I feel like, ahead of their time back then. These look fantastic. They do not make movies like this anymore. John Carpenter is a master of these type of films. I know a lot of people love Halloween and that's like their favorite Carpenter film, but for me, it is absolutely The Thing. This one, if you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor, watch it. It's great, and it's got an awesome cast, and it moves at a good pace, and it's really good. It's really good. But yes, The Thing on 4K Blu-ray, yes, please check this one out in any format. I can't say enough of praise about this one. The Emmys were the other night, and Jason Sudeikis recently won for Ted Lasso, which is well-deserved in my opinion. But if you want to see some, a good, darker take on, a character that Jason Sudeikis does, I would recommend Colossal. It also stars Anne Hathaway. If you're a fan of the channel, I love my giant monster movies. And this one is unexpectedly really good. I mean, it has some good comedy to it, but, when you get into the kaiju aspect of it, it really is just something kind of unique. And I think it does a great job with what it has. But once again, Jason Sudeikis, darker tone, for what we usually get from him. And I think the movie's just, it's very entertaining. It caught me off guard completely. I would love to see this one in 4K, but as far as quality goes, this one I feel is really good. Good special effects. The film is just, it's a fun, dark at times, as I said, but Colossal, yeah, I don't feel a lot of people talk about this one, but this one I think you really should check out. It's just something that, even if you're not a giant monster fan, there's plenty of drama here and some great character development. So yes, Colossal is available on Blu-ray, and I would encourage you to check that one out. I was talking with somebody in the comment section recently about it, and they were wanting a 4K edition of this one, so I was like, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this one. And that is The Count of Monte Cristo. I love a good revenge story, and for me, this is like, I remember reading the book, and I love the book. Actually, I think I've read it now 3 times. I think I've read the actual book. But this one, yes. I feel, as far as a film adaptation goes, I think it does a great job. Yeah, it does cut a few corners narratively in the novel. That just goes without saying. But I think what it does sacrifice, it's acceptable for a good movie. And I think this one should definitely get an upgrade one day. But, this one has some really good cinematography that I think would really benefit with 4K. I don't know, depending on who owns the rights. I believe it's Disney's label as of right now. But The Count of Monte Cristo, great acting. I mean, there's some scummy character in this one. I don't really want to spoil it. But this one is just fantastic. I love the movie. And yes, Count of Monte Cristo, definitely give this one a watch. When this one was announced for Blu-ray, I was so excited because we all have our movies that are, comfort food type of movies. And, you know, we all have different tastes and everything like that. But when this got a Blu-ray, I was extremely excited. And of course, me wanting to wait for a sale, I had to wait for the WB Archive sale that they do a couple times a year. Finally nabbed this one last year on Blu-ray. I'm extremely excited, and I love going back to it. And that is Doc Hollywood, starring Michael J. Fox. Love the movie, just love it. It is something that, you know, even when I'm feeling kind of like just the pressures of the world and I want some good, just as I said, a comfort movie, this is one that is high on that list. I go back to it quite a bit and it holds up today. It's great. It's a good comedy, a little bit of a romance thrown in, but I feel that behind Back to the Future, this is my favorite Michael J. Fox film, bar none. And this one is just something I watch at least once a year, at least. And if you've never seen it, yeah, come on. You just pick this one up. It's highly, highly recommended. And, you know, while the Blu-ray, it's great to have it on the formats, it's just not something that, you know, you're going to be blown away with as far as picture or audio. But it's just something to have in your collection and just go back to and enjoy. I love Doc Hollywood, and yeah, please check that one out. This movie I just rewatched a couple days ago, I feel was the biggest mismarketed movie of, I believe it was 2018, 2019? And that is Brightburn. They were pushing this as a horror film in the worst way. It's not a horror, I mean, yes, there's some kind of horror type elements, but for me, this is what a dark superhero or dark supervillain origin story, that's what they really should have went for here. I know aesthetically that it kind of shows that in the trailers and everything, but they were really harping on the horror aspect. It's not. It's definitely a dark villain origin story, and I think it's great. It's completely underrated in my opinion, and you know, I think it's got a great cast. You know, I'm not the biggest Elizabeth Banks fan, but I think she did a great job in this one. And of course, we have Roy from The Office, who can't seem to catch a break. You know, just, this one, yes, I love it. I think, you know, James Gunn produced this one, and it just looks, I think it actually has a decent 4K transfer. It's really good. I did a review for it way back when, but yeah, if you've ever, I'm sure you've seen trailers or something about it and you're like, oh, I don't like a good horror, I don't like horror films or something. If you want a good dark supervillain story, I would highly recommend Brightburn. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And finally, this one, this is another, I think I would put this in the same category as Doc Hollywood as far as a comfort movie goes. And for some reason, this one really resonates with me, and that is Swingers' early Jon Favreau film. In fact, I think one of his first movies. And something about this one, just, I think it has a great cast. The writing is just top notch, and we all know that very cringe-worthy scene with the answering machine. Oh my God. But I think something about the location and the characters, I think really worked for me. It's a movie that, I don't know, like, somebody that grew up in Southern California and moved to the East Coast, I always kind of like gravitate towards Los Angeles-based movies, especially when like the city is kind of like almost a character in the film, and I feel it is in this one. I love the movie. It's got, once again, early Vince Vaughn also is in this one. Just awesome writing, fantastic overall. I think it's a movie that does get, you know, I think enough praise, but I think just getting the word out, if you haven't seen it, Swingers will definitely scratch that itch for a good comedy and just kind of character development piece. I think it really works. So yes, Swingers, please check that one out. So that is my recommendation list for September 2021. Now it's your turn in the comments section below. What would you recommend to me that I should check out for next month? I'm probably going to do a little bit of a horror themed, you know, recommendations for October. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, please let me know in the comment section below. What would you recommend to me to check out on Blu-ray or 4K? In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.